So we're on the last day of March. Water temperatures are currently about 10 degrees, but we're having a pet day here. We're about to head into April, which is traditionally the last month of spring here in Ireland, and high spring. Nature is just flying into life, and we're going to go through 5 things that you can see while adventure race training during the month of April here in Ireland. So stick around and we'll go through 5 amazing things you can see this month. Now that we're into April is water temperatures. Water temperatures traditionally along the Irish coast tend to hit their lowest point somewhere in March, and from April they start to gradually creep back upwards. It's not anything sudden. This morning at my watch I was in for a little bit of a dip and it was about 10 degrees. Might get to 11 next month in April, but that's about it. But we're on the way up and we're definitely through the worst of it. So whether we're out on the water kayaking like today or just getting a little recovery swim or whatever it is we're doing, we can expect water temperatures to be on the way back up. So that's good news. So circling all around me, we have one of the earliest visitors that we get from Africa, the sand martin. Sand martins are amazing. A lot of people confuse them with swallows, but we're here on the last day of March, so they're certainly going to be here for the month of April, and they're busy hunting on this little body of water here along the seashore. What they do is they look to capture insects that get swept out off the headland. The prevailing wind is coming from this side. Insects get swept into the body of water here just below me, and they swoop down and pick them up, and that's how they feed and raise their young. They tend to nest in little earthen banks just on the edges of cliffs, like here and just over here on this side of the bay, and they are just non-stop flying, especially if it's sunny. Dawn to dusk, they're out hunting insects, swooping, diving, and if you're on your kayak in particular, you'll see these regularly during the month of April. So the sand martin is one of the fantastic things you can see while training during the month of April. Many people get confused between our next plant, blackthorn and whitethorn, but April very definitely is the month of the blackthorn. Blackthorn can be differentiated from the whitethorn by its much darker bark, especially as it gets a little older, like back here where we can see that kind of darkness in the bark compared to the whitethorn. It was traditionally used in Ireland for making things like shillelaghs. Shillelaghs are a real thing that were used in faction fights, and it's still part of the mascot for teams such as the Boston Celtics, and officers in the Royal Irish Regiment in the UK still carry a blackthorn stick, as do other Irish regiments such as the Fighting 69th on ceremonial occasions. The fruit of the blackthorn, the sloe, is very astringent and bitter, traditionally used for making things like sloe gin, which is quite delicious. But believe it or not, the flowers and the green tips can be used for making vermouths in parts of France. So, but most importantly, I think, for us as adventure racers is that it gives us a fabulous display this time of the year. So we get these beautiful displays in April from the blackthorn of these white, flowers everywhere. It's just the flower takes over on the plant. So blackthorns are one of the key things that we can see when we're training during the month of April. The other shrubs that put on a fabulous display at this time of the year is the willow. In particular, this one here, which we knew growing up as the pussy willow, but it's also known as the goat willow, the common Sally, and it just puts out this fabulous display during April. The Sally has had huge significance in Irish culture going back thousands of years. In fact, the word Sally is also the 4th letter of the Ogham alphabet. It was used traditionally for all sorts of medicinal purposes, in particular the bark. So you could make up a tea from the bark, and it was used to treat things like psoriasis, pain. It has a substance in it called salicin, which is one of the precursors to modern day aspirin. So clearly the early population here in Ireland and in Europe were onto something and knew what to use it for. The catkins, which put out these fabulous display now for the month of April. The male put out this kind of brilliant yellow display, and the female parts put out a green. But it is something that you will see on hedgerows and on mountainsides all across the country at this time of the year. It's not a great tree for timber, and a lot of people consider it a weed tree, but it's hugely important for our ecosystem. There's a number of varieties of insects, moths, caterpillars that just feed on the leaves of sallies, and it's a hugely important keystone species in the Irish ecosystem. Our final plant for the month of April is one that has been flowering all spring, but it peaks during the month of April. It's the primrose. In Irish, it was known as the buicán, which is the same word as for an egg yolk. And the name in English, primrose, comes from prima rosa. You can tell I'm brilliant at Latin, which translates as the first rose. It's a very interesting plant in that it likes kind of woodland areas where we like to train maybe for a lot of adventure racing. Both the flower and the leaf are edible and are both very high in vitamin C. Like the lesser celandine last month, I've never tried either of them, so I suppose we'll have to give it a go and see what they're like. The flower I'd recommend. It's almost got almost like a rose water type flavour to it. I've heard that the leaves are a bit more bitter, so like a bitter salad leaf, but I'll give it a go. I wouldn't say it's particularly bitter. I'd certainly have it as part of a sandwich or in a salad, no problem. So that's it for April. Don't forget to get your vitamin C. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel and grow adventure racing here in Ireland and around the world. See you next month.